Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Welcome to The Wedding Wear with officiating by Amanda. On today's episode, we have The Wedding Wear. It was a quickie. Welcome back to The Wedding Wear as we dive into unique, surprising wedding stories. I get to spill all the tea. And we are talking today about The Wedding Wear. It was a quickie. One of the first questions I ask couples is, how long do you want your ceremony to be? And I normally get one of two answers. Answer one, we want short and sweet, nothing too crazy. Okay, that's really helpful, isn't it? The second answer I get is, oh, we have the ceremony space for 30 minutes, 60 minutes. Okay, but do you really want a full ceremony lasting 30 minutes or 60 minutes? Those aren't really helpful answers, so I've worked to try to explain to couples a little bit more of how we can get to a point of understanding what exactly they want in terms of time. And unless you sat through a super quick wedding that you realized you blinked and missed it, you don't know how short can be. And unless you've sat through an hour-long, very elaborate ceremony, you don't really realize what 60 minutes feels like. So today we're going to explore what's essential in these ceremonies, just how quick they could go, how they feel very quick. And when you're talking about desires for a ceremony or a wedding that you might have been at, the structure of it based on what short and sweet actually is. So getting back to the topic at hand of a quickie wedding. My very first quickie wedding was for my best friend. It was in her living room. Law and Order SVU was playing in the background. Super romantic, I know. And it was less than 3 minutes. My most recent quickie, well, that was in my living room for a couple who wanted to save on winter fees and travel fees and not have me out on the roads. They showed up at my house and I married them in my living room, also under 3 minutes. And in fact, I've lost count of how many quickies I've done in the past 10 years. I would say that every fourth wedding, so 25%, that I officiate is either an elopement or a paperwork wedding. And before COVID, these weren't that common, at least not for me. But now, like I said, they're about 25% of the business. So let me clarify, because I laugh every time I say the word quickie, what exactly I mean by a quickie wedding. In my world, it is even more basic than an elopement of a wedding. So a quickie wedding is simply the 3 legal lines it is required to be in a marriage, and then me signing the paperwork. I refer to it in this way. I call it a paper wedding instead of a quickie wedding, because even though I'm sure it could get a laugh out of the couple, it's not quite the industry I'm in. The paperwork package is also very similar to what justice of the peace would offer. Different judges or courts may vary slightly in their process, but it's what's legally needed, not much more, in and out very quickly. So, what are the 3 required lines in a marriage ceremony? Think about that for a second in your head. Yeah. Oh gosh, I bet they have to have objections. I bet they have to have somebody give them away, and the transfer of property, old archetypal elements. So the first line that you need is pretty much the introduction. We're gathered here today for the marriage of spouse and spouse. And if I'm doing a paperwork wedding, I typically have the sheet of paper right in front of me and I use their full legal names. This is what's traditionally been in the moment where you're confirming that you have the right people in front of you. I'm sure we've seen lots of lots of movies or TV shows where the bride gets switched out with an evil twin and in the legal part of this process, by that couple standing there, their names being read out, it is legally acknowledging that these are the people. And if there was any fraudulent happening on that part where Sally Sue said that she was Sally Mae, but that's not what's on the paperwork, that's where a marriage could be declared as void. Again, life is not a soap opera, more times than not. The second line that has to be in there is that I have to legally ask the couple to, separately, each individually, confirm their consent to be married. That is the do you take, do you swear, will you vow, kind of any of the sort of question, but at the bare basics, it's do you, of your own free will and volition, declare your intent to marry this person? And they must say something affirmative. I do, I will, yes. I even take you betcha. But there's always a groom that jokes around and wants to be a little more, you know, comical with it, I guess, and says, well, maybe, or sure, I'll do that today, and that just won't fly. It has to be in the positive and affirmation. The final legal line that's needed is the pronouncement, the wrap up that if the two right people are in front of me and they both of their own free will said I do, that by the power vested in me, these two people, having said these two things, are indeed married. And I pronounce. And you don't even have to kiss. Kiss is not legally needed. I've had a few weddings where they didn't kiss either for illness or religious beliefs. And that's it. Legally, a ring exchange isn't required. Objections aren't required. Giving aways aren't required. Nothing biblical is required. No First Corinthians. And my paperwork weddings, skip pretty much all of that, especially a ring exchange. Some brides just keep their engagement ring or they plan to kind of stack up the bands later on. And a lot of grooms I've met have worked in industries where a ring is a safety hazard. So there you go. 3 legal lines. We are here today for the marriage of Amanda and Nick. Do you? Yep. Do you? Yep. Great. By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you married. Gosh, I didn't even time that, but that was probably less than 60 seconds. From there, I signed the paperwork and boom, done in mere moments. The shortest and simplest ceremony possible. So when I ask couples, how long do you want the ceremony? And they say, oh, short and sweet. I do let them know that I can do short and sweet in under 3 minutes. And a lot of times they go, oh, yeah, not that short, not that sweet. So I'm going to just share out a couple of the different things that I offer to fit what short and sweet might mean. Like I said before, paperwork wedding, the quickiest of the quickies. 3 legal lines, maybe a ring exchange, paperwork signed, and done. I'm out the door. A pop culture example, I just watched it, is Georgie and Mandy's wedding on Young Sheldon. Perfect example. And maybe on this podcast, I'll get to do some more reactions to movies and TV weddings, but that one was a really well done. They did it at the courthouse. They showed up. Family was there. No one really said a word. They got married. It was done. Then I have an elopement package. So typically when a couple says we'd like to elope, unless they're really, really clear that they just want it legal for the paperwork, I talk to them about the elopement package. It's slightly longer. It's about 5 to 7 minutes. I include a welcome, 2-3 lines. Hey, we're here today because you're going to get married. And in that section is where I say the couple's names. There's a reading. I can switch it in for a whole bunch of other readings. Doesn't have to be religious. Sometimes it's funny, but it takes about 2 minutes of time. It's just a nice little buffer. And there's a closing reflection to just have the couple take a minute and reflect on the day, on the fact that within 5 minutes, they got married. These things come in with the 3 legal lines. I let the couples pick from the scripts. They could repeat after me their vows. And a lot of times there's a ring exchange coming in there. And closing out the realm of short and sweet, we have what I call a simple wedding package, because a lot of times people say short, sweet, and simple. Well, this covers that. And this is another step up. You could get a wedding of 10 to 15 minutes. It's really perfect for the venues that say, oh, your ceremony's booked for a 30-minute block of time. because you don't want to use all 30 of those minutes for me talking. You kind of give yourself a little wiggle room at the front, 5 minutes for someone who's late, or the one groomsman that just had to run to the bathroom at the very last second. You give time for everyone to get down the aisle. You let me talk 10 to 15 minutes, get you through your ceremony. Again, with customization a little bit more to build out from what the elopement was of just 5 minutes, getting a little closer to 10, 12, 15, depending on what you want. And then you kiss, we get you back down the aisle, and we give everyone still some wiggle room. Maybe they have to walk across grass to get to cocktail hour. Or at my wedding, all the chairs had to be picked up and moved into the reception space. So we really needed that time to be done and formalize everyone out over to their next run. The other side of short, sweet, and simple is the question I ask of, wait, your venue gave you an hour? Do you really want to stand in front of people and listen to me talk for 60 minutes? I do have longer packages that work to fit into that time frame. So there's the deluxe wedding package, ideal for 30-minute block when you want a full 20, 25 minutes of ceremony with content and some additional readings. This is normally a really great one for unity ceremonies because that adds in about 5 minutes of explanation content and an activity. And then we've got the platinum, which is, I really should just rename it to the everything and the kitchen sink package because I've run out of things I could think of to add in it. Honestly, if I could apply for your marriage license for you, that would be included in this package. It's ceremonies with me officiating for 30 minutes or more, multiple readings, all the customized unity elements for days. A lot of couples don't book the platinum package because, let's be real, they wanted short and sweet. I think I've maybe officiated 10 total out of 162. Majority of couples that are looking for something a little bit above a quickie wedding have found that simpler deluxe fits them best, but that's why I do consult calls with all of my couples, is to really hammer in what they're hoping for. Because I would never want somebody who really just wants their paperwork signed to be talked into a 10-minute ceremony, or vice versa. Someone who has 30 minutes with their venue and wants to fill about 20 minutes of a ceremony to say like, oh, short and sweet. And I say, oh, great, that's an elopement. They're going to be really disappointed when after 5 minutes I say, congratulations, you're married. And all the grandparents look around at each other and go, we didn't even work up a good cry. How did we know that they got married? So all that to say, really think about what you want in a wedding, or for those of you that have already been married, what kind of wedding did you have? Did you have a quickie wedding? Have you been to a quickie wedding? Did you have a full hour-long ceremony? Maybe you landed somewhere in between. I will say for anyone planning or thinking future weddings, time goes by faster than you think when you are up there. It doesn't seem real. So if your venue gives you a 30-minute block and you're like, oh, I really only want to be up there for like 10 minutes, 15 max. Okay, I will stick to 15. You're going to think it was 5. Don't be afraid to say, let's get a little more put in a unity element because we really, really want the unity element. Awesome. It might end up being closer to 20 minutes, but I still guarantee you're going to feel like you were only up there for a few seconds. Definitely longer than a quickie, but you'll feel like you were only there for a little bit. And most importantly, outside of the legal lines, what elements do you want to have included? And if all you want as those legal lines, that's fine. Just know that you're going to be just as married as someone who had a 40-minute ceremony, like me. Thank you so much for listening in. Tune in next week. We'll have even more fun, wonderful things as I talk some fandoms and different ways to incorporate those into ceremonies. Thank you for listening to The Wedding Wear with Officiating by Amanda. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and found some inspiration or insight for your own special day. This podcast is hosted on Buzzsprout and can be found on all major platforms. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like, comment, and share to help us reach even more listeners. who might laugh a little at the wedding wear. For the links referenced in the show, visit Linktree at Officiating by Amanda. You can also follow the business on Facebook, Wedding Wire, and The Knot to stay up to date on everything going on. If you have a question you'd like me to answer on the podcast, just send an email to theweddingwherepodcast@gmail.com. And if you're ready to inquire about officiating services for your own big day, you can reach me at officiatingbyamanda@gmail.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, this has been Amanda.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.